Hello everyone, and welcome to today's AlpaCafé edition. I will come to the first one and hand over to Ole then, the recent issues and fixes. Since the last AlpaCafé, we saw a few issues in relation to the OP Plus extension by Continua, especially when using Business Central version 26. So you may have seen the tenant upgrade failure with the exception in the screenshot. There were also more detailed exceptions you could leverage from the event log of the container. But we received the notification from Continua that this is fixed with version 26.01 at least and going forward. So if you are using OP Plus and targeting BC26, you should upgrade to your dependencies to this version at least. Then what we talked in the last AlpaCafé is the inheritance of app import scope and sync mode. Khalil presented that, and this feature is now released across all clients and pipelines, so you can use that. Some really recent issue already targeting BC27, so you may have experienced that in the next major pipeline, is that when using the code cop, there was an exception that the analyzer could not be loaded. Microsoft changed something there, and we integrated a fix by Microsoft with version 2.30 of the pipeline templates. So if you see that issue or targeting BC27 already, you may have to run update CI/CD to get the latest versions of the pipeline templates. And with that, I will hand over to Ole.
Yep. Hi everyone. One other issue we fixed was that we have hang up in the pipelines and container startups on sync nav app. That is the same error we had for install nav app and publish nav app previously. That occurs with BC24 or more or less with PowerShell core and .NET core. The container is still running with PowerShell for other reasons, and we cannot switch to PowerShell core, so we implemented overrides that forward some functions, commands, nav commands to a PowerShell core session to work around the hang up. And we added not only sync nav app, we added almost all functions, commands from for the nav app management to the overrides. At least all that don't are not used to get information back. So you see get nav app info is not listed here because the serialization and deserialization from .NET Core to PowerShell made some problems or was not complete, so we couldn't use it. But all publishing or installing commands are now overridden and shouldn't lead to a hang-up if they run into errors for BC24 and later. Yeah, that should already be released. And after that, I will talk about the spotlight for starting containers in the async mode. You can now start containers in async mode. That currently only impacts the artifacts download during the container startup. It is deactivated by default until we have more testing in more projects or larger projects. So we need your help. How can you help or test it? You can activate it using the following options. You can set the container async mode in the Cosmo JSON. That is then used for the dev and build containers. It's a Boolean. So just set it to true. Later, if we activate the async mode by default, then you can also use it to deactivate it in some projects. You can also set the config container async mode in the Visual Studio Code extension. That will override also the setting for the project. So a user can say how he wants to start a container. And the last one would be that for the Azure DevOps build pipelines, you can set the variable Docker async mode, but that is then only set for build containers. And for all of them, you need to, for build pipelines, you have to update the DevOps repository, so update CI/CD, and for the setting in the container, in the Visual Studio Code settings, you have to update the VS Code extension. Right now it's only available for the, I'm not sure, current version of the VS Code extension and Azure DevOps, but we have already planned to also implement the same feature for the preview extension and GitHub /ALGO workflows, and we are also planning to add more usages for the async mode, as an example for the installation of artifacts and other things that can be run asynchronous on startup. So, and if you, as I said, if you have a project where you can test it, feel free to do it and give us feedback if there are some problems. We got the questions. I will just give some input. We have the question, can you please elaborate more on what the effect of the async mode is? Currently, it's basically if the async mode is enabled, then the container gets the information that it can use run spaces, async run spaces that are executed in parallel. And right now they are only used for the artifacts download. So the download, we moved it in one of our early updates. We moved the download of the artifacts to the start of the container, or to the early start of the container, so before the service start and so on. And the async mode now allows the download to start at the earliest possible position in the startup, and this will run, then the service will start and so on, what the container is doing itself, and then we'll wait for the download to be finished before installing the artifacts. So the download will be started and then executed in parallel to the other startup scripts, and will only be needed when installing the updates, the artifacts. So if you use only universal packages artifacts, then you don't really have much time or performance improvements. But if you use NuGet packages as an example, you will get that the NuGet download is now parallel to the startup and will get some performance improvements. But if you only have one artifact, then it's not really that much. I hope this answers your question. Yeah, and I will give now back to Philip or Khalil. I'm not sure.
Hello together. I will introduce to you the new feature in the new extension. Like you are used to the current extension, the change owners works very similar. I will share my screen. Yes. Like you are used in the other extension, here in the container, right click and change owners. There is a dialog that will be shown, and then are the owners to be seen. You can delete it, you remove yourself. If you remove yourself, there it will be a dialog that says, "Are you sure that you will that you want to remove yourself from the owners of the container?" Yeah, this function is very important to note that will be available. The validation of the syntax of the owners will be applied for containers that are created on or after the May 14th. Yeah, and that's because the updating of the owner validates the syntax based on the container origin. In the GitHub repository or in your Azure DevOps. Yeah. In the container, in the algo GitHub, the user has to be a valid GitHub username, and that means an alphanumeric name. And the Azure DevOps has to be a valid email address. Yeah. But the syntax is validated, but does not verify whether the user actually exists on GitHub or Azure DevOps. With the dialog, we also ensure that we are sure to share the not only to share, but to share and remove yourself if you remove yourself from the owners, and that will. Yeah, that's the validation of the owners for the container.
Yes, thank you. I will take the next step with the additional owners, which always already integrates with what Khalil just presented. So when adding new owners, we had in the past the challenge to create those new owners on the BC instance and add them as BC users. That has to be done manually in the past, but we have now integrated that when you run through the change owners process in VS Code, the owners you add through that will now automatically be added as BC users. So, for example, if you're using Microsoft Entra authentication in your containers, the new owners will be added as Entra BC users. And if you're using enough user password authentication, the new users will be added as standard BC users. What's important here is that the password for the new users will be the same what was used for the original main owner. So the owner who created the container and shares them or adds new owners has to share the password which was created for the container to the new owners in order to let them log in. And if you're using a backup, so a SaaS backup or database backup, and the owners which will be added through this feature already exist in the database or are exampled for some, for instance, or something, then these users will be enabled and reused again, so there are no duplicates added. That's it for the feature spotlight, and just a short recap on the Days of Knowledge Nordic in Denmark, where the Alpaca team was present. So Marcus, Patrick, and Paul from our sales team were introduced Alpaca to some interested conference attendees and had a session there, and also a few nice talks. And together with that, we will also be present on the BC TechDays, and we will also support the BC TechDays as a gold sponsor. So if you're also attending the BC TechDays on June in Antwerp, make sure to visit our booth, give us a chat, and we will also have a session there on June 12th at 15:13. So make sure to join there, and we will see you there if you attend. And an info, as this happens in parallel, we will skip the next AlpaCafé on the same date, and we will see us here again on July 10th. So with that, that's everything we wanted to present today. Kind of a short edition today. It's happened a lot of stuff in the background, not that much to share. But we will wait again if you have any questions or feedback, just use the Q&A tab and we will try to answer them. Ole, we have another question on the Async part. Would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what is meant. It is used somewhere else, but we already have planned to also use the async mode for the installation of artifacts. It's planned. It's not implemented right now, but we have plans to make the import, the publishing of artifacts if the dependencies can do that asynchronous, but the sync and installation of apps may not be possible to do async because they include database changes and can create conflicts. But the publishing, as far as I tested, could be done asynchronously. But yeah, we have planned it, but it's not part right now. We started with the easier part first, but we have it's not only planned, but we have built the groundwork for, or the foundation to implement it for other features or processes inside the container. I hope that was the question regarding that, or the feedback.
I don't see any more questions. So you can also use the Q&A tab after the meeting to propose or example new topics for the next sessions or ask questions further. And with that, we are at the end of today's AlpaCafé. We hope you enjoyed the session today and thank you for joining.